Welcome to another Fire Discussion with Empire, where we share stories to elevate and inspire. I am honored to introduce our next guest. She's a runner, she's a leader in her field, and she's a trainer. Guys, please help me welcome the one and only Wendy. Thank you so much for being here. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you. How are you doing, by the way? Thank you so much for being here.
I am well. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I mean, this is a great platform, and I really am grateful that you invited me over here. Thank you.
First of all, I've been watching you. We've known each other for oh my God, we worked together. Now that I've seen you transform, I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of you, honestly. Walk us through the process of when you fell in love with running again, because I know you're a personal trainer now. You have clients who simply obviously loving what you do every day. Where did that passion for training start, would you say?
It started a couple of years ago. I probably would say about 3 years ago. Okay. And I was just training with a friend of mine, and we wanted to race. So I already was doing running every so often. Okay. I was always into fitness since I was a kid, but every so often I would just take breaks. Okay. And this time I think was when I finally committed to at least achieving one 5K. And my friend and I decided that we would train together. Okay. And I trained with a male. So I don't know if you ever experienced this, but when you are training with men, the level is completely different. They're not that nice. So I had, it was tough. And I think the worst thing that I experienced from that journey was not having enough confidence in myself. Because a lot of times when you're doing something and you tend to focus on your outer, you tend to feel like, you're doing this for someone else. So you're looking at your outlook is based off of somebody else's perception. Yeah. And when you don't grasp your whys, you tend to get lost and confused or discouraged and really unmotivated. So, it started off pretty well, but then after a while, I kind of didn't want to continue on because it was hard. It was difficult. But the guy that I was training with, he kept encouraging me, and we finally accomplished our 5K. It was every day we were out there, and I got hurt a couple of times. Even my nutrition, I had to learn to curb the way I eat because it affected my performance. So as a result, I started learning so many different things about myself, but it didn't click for me until 2 years later when I got invested, and and that's when I realized that I didn't want to just be a recreational runner. Of course, I was winning too, so I was just okay.
Wait, let's pause. Wendy, the amount of races you win almost every time you run. That's incredible. I run.
I couldn't believe it myself.
But I don't win. I'm just I'm going to run just to win and just finishing the race. And a lot of us do go with the route. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, for anyone listening. The idea of running, the fitness part of it is amazing. But this girl, when she runs, if you're running against her, you better believe you're going to see. So that's one of my questions to you. You are winning. So that means you are doing something extra than most of your peers. That's incredible. And you said you started 2 years ago, and obviously you said you always been into fitness. What was that click that says, I'm going to go that extra mile more than ever more than before. What was that switch for you? What made that switch, would you say?
When my partner and I decided to part ways, because I think that I started to understand my body, and I started to understand the way I trained was different from the way he trained. Granted, I learned a lot and it was great. However, when you start to understand yourself, and that's why I say you got to know your whys, because once you start to connect with yourself, you start to understand that there's certain strategies that work for you and certain strategies that don't work for you. And when I'm training, I do not put, I mean, for him, he felt like I didn't do my best, and I did. But my thing is that when you're training, you don't give 100% all the time, because you want to save your energy so that when you need to perform, that's when you give it your all. And that's something I always knew since I was a kid, because I used to run track. Now, after transitioning as an adult, you know, your body sends, your body has memories. So your body remembers that, hey, you know, you don't have to put up all this energy. Right. You could save it. And then, you know, once you craft it, you can actually become better than you probably would have never imagined. So for me, that's really where it started to, you know, click for me. And then after a while, once we parted ways, I stopped running for a little bit. And then I started to long for it. I started to miss it. And it was just like, yo, I don't know if you ever experienced this, but you know, when you have like a sweet craving for something, like you have sweets, we crave for sweets, really, right?
Especially I feel like people who are pregnant, sometimes they're like, I need pickle right now. I think a lot of us can really, for sure.
Yes. And you go out of your way just to find that sweet, like just to satisfy that craving. Yeah. That was how running became for me. I realized that I did not want to just be a recreational runner. I didn't want to run every so often. I wanted to do this because it made me feel good. And mentally, it changed the way I saw myself. It gave me more confidence. I was more outspoken. And even my stress levels became a lot less, because yes, your body do go through a lot of stresses, but for some reason, when you're exercising, I mean, not for some reason, I mean, biologically, there's proven facts as to what the benefits are in, you know, as far as like working out and everything, no matter what type of cardiovascular activity you're doing, there's researches that prove that it changes your stress levels. So I noticed that there was a big difference in that. And I noticed that, you know, I was a lot more calmer. So when I started to see the changes of my personality, of the way I reacted to things, I realized that, you know what, I think I might do this more often. And so my routine was always the same. But I just kind of tweaked it a little bit, where I just started working out more often, like early in the morning. And I realized that I thrive more early in the morning than I do in the afternoons, because I like that time for myself. And personally speaking, when I started going to therapy, I realized and I learned that the more you connect with nature, the more it helps you reset your nervous system. So that's where the whole that's where it started clicking for me, like, oh, this is why I feel so different. This is why I'm like, you know, changing the way I respond to things, because my nervous system was resetting every time I connected with nature. Wow. So that's where it all started for me. And that was like maybe about 2 years ago. And I will honestly say since then it started me in this path of consistency. And the more consistent I was, the more I was able to see progress, and the more I was able to win a couple of races. And I mean, honestly, I love being around the community too, because those people are very encouraging. They're awesome motivators. So
that's a powerful thing. You said consistency and community. I think those two things I could not agree with you more. What was one of the biggest challenges you had to face? You mentioned obviously consistency, which I think a lot of people find very hard. And also, I know you mentioned the why, but for you specifically, what is one of the biggest challenges you really had to go through to get to the stage you are right now?
Learning to develop a relationship with myself. And I say that in the sense of, so when you're doing something, especially like a strenuous activity like running, because it strains on you. You know, like I experience physical fatigue. I experience a lot of aches on my knees and my joints. And when you don't have somebody there with you, a lot of times you lose that motivation. You lose that desire to want to actually achieve something, because now you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have anybody there telling you, hey, you need to get up, you need to, you know, it's just you. Yes. So it was really important that I learned to develop a relationship with me. And I have to say, it was really hard, because all my life I've been surrounded by people, and every person was always, it was almost like a distraction from actually developing a true relationship, listening to yourself, understanding when your body can do something, when it can't do something, or when you need to rest, when you don't want to rest. Because all here is, everything that's in your brain is based off of somebody else's perception of you. So when I realized that, damn, I don't think I really know myself. I don't really think I trust myself, or I really don't like myself. I realized that, yo, I need help. I need help. So, you know, going to therapy, I learned so much about my mental health. My mental health was so important, and it helped me develop a relationship with myself, and it improved my performance in running, it improved my relationship with people, and it helped me set boundaries. And I feel like it's so important that people understand the importance of developing a relationship with themselves, because a lot of times we always look for somebody else's approval. We, even for those who have children, or so for those who are married, it's just like you have a host of people who's literally blocking you from knowing who you are, what you want, what your desires are, what you can actually achieve, without feeling constantly like you can't do it, like it's impossible. Because all your life, most of us, I mean, I don't know everybody, but I know for myself, you always hear criticism. You always hear, well, no, maybe you shouldn't try that. Maybe you shouldn't do that. I mean, you're a Black girl. Come on now. Why would you be in a running community that's full of white people? I'm sorry, but I have to make it known, because as a Black woman, that doesn't exist. It's rare that you find Black women who are actually performing at that level. At my age, girl, all I hear when I hear Black women talk is they're worried about their hair, they're worried about sweating too much, they're worried about, well, what's my man gonna think, you know, or my knees hurt, or this and that. And that's where it stops, you know. There's nobody there. It's like your mindset is not willing to go above that reason why you can't do it. So you just fall into that idea of, well, I have my reason why I can't, so I might as well just stay here. And instead of, you know what, let me find out if there's a way out of this mindset. Let me see if there's a way that I can rise up beyond other people's perception, because that mindset is based off of somebody else's perception of you. How about you try to see what you're capable of beyond than what somebody else told you can't do? And that's where the challenges was, because then I had to develop a relationship with myself. I had to understand, who is Wendy? What is Wendy about? What is Wendy trying to achieve? And what is it that Wendy loved? What is it that Wendy loved to do? And it took time, a lot of time, a lot of sweat and tears. Girl, lots of that. There are many occasions where I would just be running and I would just break down and cry. And I would cry because it was like, yo, like, I'm actually out here 4 o'clock in the morning by myself, and I'm having a deep connection with myself. And it's like, all your inner self, your younger self, all parts of you starts to show up.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, I'm sad, I'm depressed, or I'm feeling this way, and you've never addressed this. Why is that? Don't you love me? And this is things that's being told to me from myself. And the more I started to dig into myself, the more I started realizing that I didn't like myself. I didn't know who I was. And I was afraid of that person. But after going to therapy, and then after really discovering what I wanted, I started developing that relationship. And I realized that was more important to me, for me to continue on, so that I might be able to perform and produce the results I desire. So that's why I feel like it's such a difficult task to be able to accomplish, because you have to first recognize that you don't have a relationship with yourself. And that was difficult, very difficult.
But it sounds like you went through a journey. I know people use that word like almost too many times, I would say. That self-love journey. And I love how you broke it down. And I'm shivering just listening to you, because I don't know. I think I went through a similar journey, but maybe not as intense as yours. I think the first time I started running, and then I think I quit, and I'm like, I'm done. But the difference is I'm like, I'm gonna do this tomorrow. We're gonna try again tomorrow. And I think that's the key consistency that you mentioned. But my question is, you went through an intense journey. What would you say to someone trying to find themselves? Obviously, you're a personal trainer. Walk us through the process of what you would either, maybe you see a client where that personal journey they're not even there yet. They know they want to lose weight, or maybe they want to look good. And I think that's where, if you don't have your why, you're like, oh my God, everybody else look good. If I'm looking for perfect mate, I need to look this perfect size, and maybe the world will love me more, but I don't care about me loving myself or even understanding myself yet.
We wanted to take a moment to thank all our new subscribers. Please don't hesitate to comment below. Let us know how you enjoying our podcast so far, or if you have any recommendations, so we can continue to give you great contents. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for watching.
Powerful journey that you went through. How would you help people get to that same level of understanding of self-love and finding their why?
I personally feel like the first thing is that, so I'm going to give you like a metaphor, right?
Okay. I love metaphors. Sure.
When you're cleaning your house,
yeah,
what's the first thing you do?
If there are things on the floor, I would pick everything from the floor first, put them away, and then I start sweeping. If it's a place with a carpet, then I'll start vacuuming. But the floor needs to be clean first. I mean, you can't start mopping on dirty clothes or dirty things on the floor. The first thing is pick up everything from the floor, gathering everything, all the trash. That would be what I would do.
Absolutely. And the reason why I thought you were going to also say countertop is because you want to make sure you clean up all those so you can start sweeping. So it's like a step-by-step process.
First. Yes, 100%.
So think about it in this scenario. When you are transforming your mindset, what's the first thing you need to do? You need to first off, you need to figure out exactly here, what's going on? Who's around you that may be trapping you? So if you don't realize that you may still be trapped here, no matter what you start, you're always going to falter. So you got to understand, all right, for instance, if you're in a relationship with someone that you're in a toxic relationship, you know, the person doesn't treat you right. You know, he cusses you out, or she makes you feel like crap, or whatever the case is, but yet you tolerate it. Why do you tolerate that? That's where you start asking. When you start asking these simple questions, why am I tolerating these things? Why do I tolerate this mess? That's when you start to clean up some of the things that's holding you back from being the best version of yourself. So when you start to actually ask yourself, again, ask first, because you have to be aware of what the messes are. When you are realizing what those messes are, that and willing to make the appropriate changes, then what you do, you substitute the negativity, the negative things that was holding you back to the positive things. So if you know this person was always cussing you out, now you know that you're a type of person that has to be around other people. You need to surround yourself with positive mindsets, positive people who's going to actually elevate you, people who's actually going to talk the truth to you, but not in the way where they're going to hold you down or break you down. Because you have people that's going to break you down because they're jealous or whatever the case is, you know? So you want to make sure that you understand those things. Now, if you don't even know or have any clue as to what you need to do in order to break down those barriers, then you need to align yourself with people who are educated so that they can actually support you and teach you how to get to that next level. It's just like school. You know, you don't start off from grade 1 to 12th grade just like that. No, you have to go through each grade level just so that you can comprehend the fundamentals so you can actually graduate from high school. So that's just the same way as though you're breaking down the barriers of your past experiences, your toxic relationships, all these things that hold you down, all the criticism, your environment, these things shape you. So if you know that they shape you, you know that they're going to likely hold you down, hold you hostage until you start questioning, what is it that's holding me back and what can I do? Now, if you don't have a plan or you don't have any guidance, then you surround yourself with licensed people. Like for me, yes, I am a personal trainer. I'm aware of it. I research enough information so I know exactly what kind of information to share with people. So people have to call on me so that they might be able to get the results that they desire. But mentally, if I'm not all there, then I need to surround myself with people who understand mental health. So that's why for me personally, when I started seeking mental health, it changed the whole trajectory of how I interact with people, and it changed the way I saw myself. So that in itself is important, because if you don't know or have any strategic plan as to how to get yourself out of the things that's holding you down, then you need to align yourself with people or even have to pay for services that's going to get you to that next level. Yeah. And it's so important that we learn that, because other people, other races, they know that. You know, when you're trying to build your business, what do? You hire either a consultant or you get yourself connected. People know this. And these millionaires, they understand that. They don't work alone. They get themselves connected with the team of people that's actually elevated, that's going to elevate their business plans so that they can be the next million or billionaires. It's just like everything. Yeah. We don't know everything. Exactly. That's why if you don't know that you have stuff that's holding you down, then you need to start asking, or you need to start questioning your surrounding. Now, if you realize it now, and yet you don't have the support system in place, then you need to connect yourself with people who will be able to get you to that next level. That's where I would honestly say you need to start. And I always tell my clients, so what's going on? What's going on with your life? Mm-hmm. You know, because I have to get to know you so that I understand what it is, what are your barriers, what are the things that you're interested in, the type of cardio, whatever it is that you like to do, but yet you're trapped. I need to understand that. I need to know that, so I know how to interact with you and I know how to put in place the right plan. And I work with my clients. I don't just do it myself. My clients and I collaborate. And I'm a big advocate for my clients. I make sure that I'm supporting them. I make sure I encourage them. But more importantly, I'm realistic, because I'm not going to tell you, hey, you're starting to work out, so you need to fast every day or you need to just juice. No.
Yeah.
I'm not setting you up for failure. I'm trying to help you to understand that this is a life-changing experience.
Yeah.
So what do you need to do? You need to start step by step, just like climbing stairs. You need to take one step at a time so that you can get the results you desire. So a lot of times, especially when I'm dealing with, and no offense, but when I'm dealing with women, the first thing is, I want to look sexy. I want to have a curvy body, and I want to do this by summertime. You do know we're in March, right?
Summer's in 2 months. Yeah.
Unless you're willing to starve yourself, especially depending on where your body weight is, it's highly impossible. That's why you have to be realistic about your plans, about your goals, about what you really can do. Because if you're not willing to commit to 6 to 7 hours a week to working out, then we need to give ourselves first permission to set realistic plans. And I say give yourself permission because you don't give yourself permission at times. A lot of times, because again, the criticism is in your mind, you feel like you have to achieve this goal. And if you don't, it's like the whole world is just going to collapse. But you have to allow yourself to understand that realistically, I can only commit to 20 minutes a day or 20 minutes 2 or 3 days out of the week. That's what I'm really able to commit to. So when you realize that, then we can come up with realistic approaches as to what your body can look like in the next few months. And you have to be comfortable knowing that you will achieve this, and understand that celebrating yourself for every milestone is the best thing you can do. Because this is where you start to appreciate yourself. You start to appreciate your journey from understanding every milestones that you go through, because it's not easy. It's not easy changing your lifestyle. It's not easy changing a behavior. So you're literally tapping into your brain to tell your brain to stop doing stuff that you used to do for over 20 or 30 years, to now transform it, to now adapt to a new activity that's going to hurt your body, that's going to keep you sore, that's probably going to make you sleep it's going to drive you crazy. So you got to be realistic. You got to get to know yourself. So these are the things that I gradually teach my clients. As they go along the program with me, I start to notice a transformation, the way they see themselves, the way they are in their performance. Everything changes. And that's from here, but it's step by step.
I love it. I love it. I can see the passion in your voice and obviously in your face. I admire it, because I'm pausing because I never pride myself to get a personal trainer, even though I did run track in high school, in college. And I remember I wanted to up my performance game because I never had a really good trainer. Coach, if you're watching, I love you, but I'm sorry. It just, I honestly never find a personal trainer who would, and also because personal trainers are different for everyone. And it's just, I never had a personal trainer I could trust. What would you say is a key ingredient to good personal trainer? And the second part to this is, what are some key ingredients or even traits you see in personal trainer that really scares you? The reason I say this is, yeah, I used to run track. Yeah, I did all these things. But when it comes to the personal, when I wanted to elevate my fitness game, I just couldn't find someone I really could trust to get me there. So that's the reason I'm asking, what are just listening to you, I'm like passionate. I'm like, I wish I had that. Nobody asked me about how I'm feeling. It was just like, Mimi, we need you to run like 5 miles and I need that in the next 15 minutes. I'm like, okay. I was crying earlier, you don't care. So with that being said, what are some of the key ingredients when it comes to having a good personal trainer?
So I'm glad that you said something that was key. Nobody ever asked me. Why is it that it was important for you to feel like they needed to?
I'm not kidding you. Nobody ever asked me how I felt. It was just like, well, we're going to do 500 push-ups, whatever the case may be, but nobody asked about how I felt and I've been doing this for over 10 years. Nobody cared about how I felt.
And that's the key thing. We tapping into all aspects of Mimi, but you know yourself enough to know when there's an outside influence trying to tell you to do something that you're not accustomed to doing, that you're going to reject it. So as a result, that person, and the reason why you don't feel like you trust him is because that person never really got to know Mimi. And I feel like a lot of times, especially when we're developing a relationship, whether it's friendship, whether it's, like, building a community, whatever it is, get to know that person, understand who they are, where they are, and what they're willing to commit to. Because if you don't take that time out to really build that foundation with them, then all you're doing is instructing them. And in most times, we don't like to be told what to do. Especially as we get older.
That's true.
We don't. I mean, look at kids. You tell them what to do, they're looking at you like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to challenge this.
That is so true.
I was that kid. I challenged my mom. So I was just like, I wonder if I did this, what would happen? Even though you're going to get a whooping, you're like, well, it wasn't that bad, And you go off and do it again,
Yeah, especially as a kid, that was like I tried everything under the sun. I'm like, oh my God. I gave my parents the run for their money. I'm like, I was the bad kid out of the group. Out of 4, I was the bad kid. I was like, because everyone else was super nice, like they listened to my parents, but I'm like, this is too easy. I'm like, let's see what you made of today.
Yeah, I know, right? And you were a kid. Imagine that. You were a kid doing that.
Yeah.
So think about adults. You're an adult. You've established so much. And now you have somebody, a stranger, coming to tell you, yo, I need you to run around the block 5 times so that I can see some results, so we can get what you want. No, you're going to be like, no thanks. I would rather just sit out or just figure it out other ways, because you get tired. And again, you haven't developed a relationship with the person. You don't trust the person. So you don't even know if the person even knows when you're tired or if you're able to achieve that goal. So that's why it's so important that you get to know, build a relationship with this person, understand where they're at and what they're willing to put out, and then work with them. It's not about, and that's one thing I realized with personal trainers, they're so caught up with they're here to deliver results for their clients.
Yeah.
But they're so caught up with the idea that they have to produce results for their clients that they forget their clients. It's like you're stuck in your job and you think that if you don't perform this for this client, that you're going to lose out on your client. But psychologically what's happening, you're literally allowing it to happen. You're manifesting that which you don't want to happen.
Yep.
So you're bringing forth the thing that you already think is possible, which is losing your client based off of your actions. You're forcing this client to do something because you feel like, I'm a personal trainer. I know it all. Yes, you may know the fundamentals of being a personal trainer, but you don't know the client. So you need to learn the client so that you can apply the fundamentals of personal training to that person. There's so many different types of fundamentals. You got to understand which role this client plays and how to help that person achieve that goal. So you're collaborating with your client. You're not their parents. You're not their spouse. They may not even trust you. So you have to come in as, and I don't want to say it in a negative way, but you have to come in as literally a sheep. Get to know who this person is and understand what they want and see how you can collaborate with them. That's where it starts.
I love that. I don't know who said that, but they said true leadership is being able to follow. And the fact that you said that, I think that's so powerful to anybody listening. That is true leadership right there. Having the ability to lead by following. Because I have received messages where they're like, Mimi, because now I'm starting to do ab workout upside down again. So just to give you an example, and I got so many messages, Mimi, I need you to show me how to do this. So my question to you is, how do you, and I'm sure you get that all the time too, especially because you elevated your game and now you're a personal trainer. How do you deal with clients who are giving you these messages with the mindset, oh my God, I want to start doing exactly what you're doing. I want to go to races and start winning, and birthing, like formulating that plan for them, and maybe say, okay, let's step back a little bit. Maybe you're not quite there yet. How do you formulate that when you do get clients probably coming to you, asking you those type of questions?
I'm glad you asked that, because that was a recent question. And I always come back with, what are you willing to sacrifice?
Ooh, that's so true. Nothing.
When I see you turning yourself upside down, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I really want to do that.
Let me tell you, there are certain things first of all, you have to eat. You cannot be dizzy. So you cannot eat certain time, and you have to do a lot of things to really, really flip upside down and really do 100 abs. And so you're right. I never thought of what I sacrifice.
Exactly.
That is a powerful response. I love it. I love it.
I'm not willing to sacrifice that. So my game is a lot different.
Yeah.
When I started recognizing what is it that I needed to sacrifice to achieve certain goals, that's when I realized that, a lot of times I may not want to do all those other stuff. I may not want to, for me, I love biking, but I want to be able to swim. But am I committed to swimming? No, I'm not. So because of that, I'm not producing the results I desire. Now, when I see other people, I'm like, yeah, I want to get to that point. And, they don't come back and say, well, what are you willing to sacrifice? I realized it. Well, Wendy, what are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to commit to being in that pool, freezing your butt off? I mean, now it's warmer, but
let me tell you, I go to a swimming facility, it's not always warm. And because I have specific schedule of when I want to swim, because I had to give up running because I broke the back tendon, so I can't run as much. So swimming was like, I had to swim. I don't have a choice. But when you're committed to do it, that water gonna be cold sometimes. Go in there and you're like, Jesus, take the wheel. And eventually your body gets used to the cold. I have to say, it's just going in part. But you have to cry a little bit.
And yet you still haven't gotten used to it. So
I will never. You don't understand. I was born in Boston, but I'm like, I love the warmth. I like it hot. I can stand. So I will never, ever get used to. Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever done an ice bath?
I'm not ready for that.
You don't have to do it, but
it's like I did it somewhat. And I tasted it. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I do other things. Yes, it takes longer. No, it doesn't take longer. But I started sacrificing different foods. Like I don't eat a lot of meats. In fact, I don't eat meats. I might eat, let me not lie. I might eat like maybe 1 or 2 like seafoods here and there, but I sacrifice meats in total because especially red meats and all this chicken and some fishes. The reason why I made that sacrifice is because inflammation. Your body's building up all this inflammation because you're working out. And I realized that, well, I'm not going to sit in a cold bath, cold water and allow my body to thaw out so that, all the inflammation can kind of like reduce or whatever. I would rather deal with my internal organs by providing the nutrients that it needs in order to repair its cells. So that's one of the reasons why I decided that I'm going to sacrifice this.
Yeah.
And that's my sacrifices. And I'm okay with that. But you are okay with sitting in the bathtub, and that's okay too. And still continue on the way your lifestyle is, eating the way you want to eat. And I think that's where you have to understand yourself. You have to know what you're willing to sacrifice to. And you have to know first you got to know what you want to commit to.
Right.
And then you got to understand the sacrifices and what you're willing to sacrifice, because you don't have to sacrifice it all, but you can sacrifice some things. And then from sacrifice, you need to substitute, because when so for me, even though I don't eat the meats, I substitute. I make mushrooms, which is delicious. Or I'll find.
We'll talk about food later, but oh my God,
I'll find other things that are just as delicious, if not even better, and I feel amazing. So and I'm not bloated. I mean, like, speaking as, especially with a woman, like, you go through your menstruation and a lot of times you don't know what is the right foods that you can eat. And I'm a type of person, I had really bad cramps. So me adjusting my nutrition, it changed everything. It changed the way my body reacted to my menstrual cramps. It changed everything. So I was willing to sacrifice that, not only because of my my performance in running, but also because of what was happening with me mentally, physically, what was happening with me menstruationally speaking, health-wise. And I think a lot of women don't like to talk about that. I'm not ashamed to talk about that.
I'm not ashamed. I'm actually glad you brought it up, because I don't want to brag. And if I'm offending anyone, I'm apologizing in advance. Yes, we are going to talk about our cramp.
That's part of our biology.
It is. And let me tell you, I don't get cramps. I know a lot of people complain about it, and I'm like, girl, I got you. I'm so sorry. Do you want me to get you something like water? I get it. Anything I can do to help. But the moment I started running and eating healthier, I don't get cramps anymore. And I feel like a lot of people, I'm not saying if you get cramp, you're not healthy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying me. Personally, I don't get cramped the moment I start running, and sometimes I slack off, right? And when I did slack off, so I got perfect time of when I slack off. So the back tendon of my foot broke, so I was forced to be on bed rest for 2 months because they had to surgically attach the tendon again. Oof. And I did not get that from running. Let's just be clear.
Okay.
I don't want to scare anyone.
That happened,
but my foot fell into a manhole, and that's the reason it broke, and that happened. But with that being said,
I'm so sorry that happened.
Thank you. I'm feeling much better now, but my goal is to eventually run again. But when I sat for those 2 months, because after I did the surgery, I couldn't move, and I had my period, and I had so much pain. Like I remember like the second month, I had so much because I sat in my bed for 2 months. I did not exercise. I didn't eat healthy. I didn't eat meat per se, but whatever I was eating wasn't healthy because I was almost depressed because I'm like, I can't move. I wasn't exercising. And I felt like I gained like 50 pounds just from doing nothing. It was a mental thing and as well as a physical thing too. But I started having cramp. I'm like, what is this pain? What is this pain I'm feeling? And I realized because obviously I wasn't being healthy. And so I'm not faulting anyone from getting cramp, but I understand your pain, but I'm telling you there's a solution. And I know my solution is definitely being healthy. It just definitely helped. And whew, I mean, do you feel the same way when it comes to cramp and being healthy and how that can somehow, at least for me, eliminate that pain?
So you didn't want to offend anyone. I don't mind. So medically speaking, there are so many research that's been done. And I think a lot of times we don't like to be truthful. We don't like to seek truth, and we don't like truth. We don't like to be truthful. And the reason why is because we're afraid of offending. And I'm only going to say this not to offend, but realistically, researchers prove based off of races, there are certain types of foods that you can and cannot eat. And you can actually search this online. Medical records will prove that with Black women, when it comes down to dairy, when it comes down to cheese, all this other stuff, you develop more inflammation in your body because your body doesn't process the food well. So when you have these inflammation developing, basically it's just like this, like a big soreness. Like you ever seen so you experienced your legs, and I'm sure your legs was just like puffing up, right?
Oh, let me tell you, because so after I did the surgery, I'm glad you mentioned that, and I'm gonna let you finish because this is so powerful. But to tell you my story specifically, because I'm still going through this now, when I eat certain food, my food just ballooned. When it ballooned, I can't even wear shoes. And that's the food. And I think maybe sometime maybe I got information. I never paid attention. I didn't care. But because the foot itself is injured, and obviously I'm paying attention, and my foot, typically you can't see my vein, you can't see the bone to my foot, because when you compare the two, you can see one is skinnier and then the other one is like, it's like 20 pounds heavier. And I'm like, oh my God. So I agree with you. And I never noticed that before. It depends on if I eat like food with even too much salt, my
yes, so it swells up. You swell up
a lot. And
yeah, in fact,
I went to my surgeon. I'm like, listen, my foot is big. I don't know what's wrong with it. And he's like,
yes.
What did you eat?
You see how he asked you what you ate?
I know.
What you ate.
Yeah.
Because even when you think about what they used to use as to preserve food, they put a lot of salt in it. What you're eating will dictate how your body reacts. So if you're eating and consuming things that are not good for your body, what happens? After the end of the month or the first of the month, whatever time period you're experiencing your menstruation, that's when you feel the effects. And for some women, it might be in different ways. For me, it was throwing up, diarrhea, all of that, in bed, sick for 2 days, okay? And it's the worst experience. All these years, nobody can actually tell me other than take some pills, take some ibuprofen and this and that. I hate taking pills, okay? I do not like taking pills. So I was just like, I gotta figure out a way to get this fix? Like, I don't know what to do. The doctors don't know. And this is why I said that with Black women, and I mentioned the dairy, is because a lot of research that's been done. Yes, we have a lot of race research, and with white women, it's different. Our physiology is different from white women. It's different. Y'all can correct me on this or not. Please go, not just Google. No, I read, guys. I read. So I know this to be true. And the thing is that with Black women, particularly when it comes down to certain foods, we have to be very mindful, because a lot of foods do not agree with our physiology. It just doesn't. So when you start to understand your body, understand what it is that you can and cannot eat. Dairies, for me, and for most research that was done on Black women, your body doesn't digest it well. Look it up. You don't have to believe me.
We wanted to take a moment to thank all our new subscribers. Please don't hesitate to comment below. Let us know how you enjoying our podcast so far, or if you have any recommendations so we can continue to give you great contents. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for watching.
You don't have to believe me, but it just doesn't. So now you got to find other means to help reduce that inflammation, because dairy, it causes inflammation. And then you have hormones. Keep in mind, your body's already producing hormones. So now you have all this, so you have, what was the word I'm looking for? So you have these new hormones that you're introducing to your body. So your body's like, yo, who is this? What's going on? Like, why is this foreign hormone here? So your body's attacking itself and attacking this foreign object, this foreign hormone that you keep putting into your body. Mm-hmm. So your body's in constant work. It's fighting off all these inflammation. It's fighting off all this foreign things that you keep putting in your body. And now your body's attacking itself, because it's like, well, I can't tell which one is which. Because you just introduced another hormone, which is milk, for instance. And your body's just like, yo, I don't know, I'm confused. So you have this swelling that happens in your ovaries, and it's overwhelming, because it's like, oh crap, what do I do? So yes, you take the pills, but what is the pills really doing for you? Amen. All it's doing is blocking the pain in your mind, but is the internal effects is still occurring. So now you have all this bloatation. You see how your stomach gets bloated and your uterus hurts, and you just feel like crap. Your mood changes. You are nasty around people or to yourself. So now you got to figure out, yo, something has to change in my nutrition. And that's where the key lies. You got to find out, what is it that your body can ingest? When you're menstruating, you should be eating anti-inflammatory foods, bananas, things that has potassium, things that's going to help reduce the swelling, but also repair the cells, because your body's going through a transformation every month. We are creators. We create life. So if you're not using that egg, it's shedding. So now what you need to do is replenish yourself. Care for your body, understand what's happening internally, just as much as we care so much about the external things of the externality of ourselves, that we fail to realize that internally that needs care too. So that's why when you eat, you have to be mindful of it.
I sometimes don't care about internal, or me, and that's because a lot of people would agree with me, because we don't see it yet. We're not paying attention. Yet I would agree with you. It is equally, if not even more important, because many times whatever you put inside gonna manifest outside. Yes. And it starts with that. I guess my question to you is, walk me through the process of, I don't want to say this because individually everybody's different, but for you specifically, what would you say a good eating plan would be on a good day? because I know sometimes people have cheat days. But what would that look like? Just to give us an idea, anybody who wants to mimic your fitness level, what would you say that perfect eating day looks like?
Okay, so just a disclaimer, I am not a registered dietitian, okay? But based off of what I experienced, and because of my Caribbean background, Haitian, and you know, like us Haitians, we understand there are certain foods that, that makes sense, because one thing I love about the Caribbean is that they always had vegetables in their foods, and I never understood that. But think about I don't know if you've ever been to Haiti, but think about how much older a lot of these young women, these men live. They live for a long time. Why is that?
I'm glad you said that. And the reason I'm cutting you off, and I'm apologizing if I am,
oh, it's okay.
Because when you go back to our roots, and I know you said, not to discriminate, it's just the Black community, our body responds differently from what we eat. But when we go back to what they used to eat, and I know sometimes we don't, like for example, my mom, Asian background, she eats a lot of ginger. And to me, I'm like, now that I'm part of the American culture, I'm like, I don't need this. I don't need this. And then we're gradually mimicking the American culture more. And yes, Asian American, I was born in Boston, but that's not what I'm saying. But we are leaving behind those things our parents or grandparents used to do when they had a reason for doing them. And now we're mimicking something totally new, this foreign things. Like for me now, yes, I always used to drink coffee, but a lot of things people say you should eat more of. You have yogurt in the morning, which is milk, but that probably doesn't respond well to our body.
Exactly.
So as I'm listening to you, I'm like, oh my God, that is so true. Why are we leaving behind our roots? They already know what those good things are. So please walk us through that process. That is so true. Go back to the beginning of what our ancestors basically used to do.
You know what's so interesting that about our ancestors, even in African, like the people that they enslaved, believe it or not, they used them as cooks. So they were making, and when they were making the foods, they were using herbs. They were using all the stuff from the vegetations, because these Africans understood that this was what you needed in order to heal in order for your body to heal itself, in order for it to repair itself, in order for it to replenish itself, in order for it to get the nutrients it needs. So this has been part of our genetics for a long time. We forgot it. We got caught up with the processed foods, and those processed foods, like I said, are foreign to our bodies. So our bodies are attacking the processed foods and it's attacking us because it's confused. Our body is capable of healing itself. Yeah. And there are so many researches that's been done that actually claim this information. I'm not talking out my ass. I'm really serious. Like, I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Yeah. You got to actually go back to your roots. Understand, like, Haitian community, the first thing we used to make boiled banan. Boiled plantains, we used to boil. Why is it that they were boiling plantains? Think about the plantain in itself. What does a plantain have? What kind of vitamins? What kind of nutrients? It had fiber. It had vitamin C. It had all these nutrient components. And when you finish eating it, I don't know if you remember this, but you used to always have to go to use the bathroom, right?
That's because true. Your body was fiber.
So after you finish eating, your body got the nutrients, and so it flushed out the remaining amounts. And now you're feeling great. You're feeling wonderful, right? But think about how you feel after you have your processed food. After you had your fried fries, your fried whatever chicken and stuff like that. Think about how bloated you feel. You're just like, I just feel really lazy. I just feel like, I don't want to do nothing. Oh my God. Like, screw this. This is like, oh, let me just take a nap. Oh my God, I just feel fatigued. I feel exhausted. I don't feel like I really did anything that was productive with my body. And that's what happens with processed foods. It just literally just like, it's like dead weight that's sitting in your body. And it takes a long time, believe it or not, it takes 90 days for meat to actually decompose, for you to digest that, for cleaning out of your colon. And I don't know, but I think that to me was just like, wow, man, I might want to think about what I'm putting in my body. I want to use the bathroom. I mean, I like to use the bathroom, and we should be using the bathroom frequently. In fact, if you can use the bathroom as much as you eat, then you're flushing out all the toxicity that's in your body. We need to be flushing, you know, and some people don't.
Flushing every day. I know everybody don't go every day, but yeah,
absolutely.
It's supposed to be happening. Oh my goodness. That is so cool. But speaking of that specifically, because I know I love the fact that you said, well, let me second guess about what exactly I put in my body. But I think you also said it earlier, is when you are eating those things, right? And now you have this foreign thing your body has to process, is utilizing that energy to really flush it out. That energy can be used for maybe, I don't know, making your skin smoother, or even making you look younger, or something else.
Absolutely.
But my point is, now your body is focusing on like flushing out this foreign object instead of focusing on healing your foot, or maybe healing your breast. So I'm glad that you're taking the time to second guess, and it goes back to what you said earlier. What are you willing to sacrifice?
Yes.
When you eat that yogurt, you're sacrificing your body healing your arm to process that yogurt. I know I'm being a little bit extreme here, but that's also the mindset you have to think of.
Yes. I don't think you're being extreme. I think you're being, see, that's the thing. We don't realize just how important everything we eat is who we become. If you're not being cautious about what you're ingesting, then you're literally depriving yourself from health and wellness. I mean, even when you think about your face breaks out every time you eat all these sweets, you know, all this other stuff, right? Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but most people that I know, your face will break out. Or if you're eating too much fried food, you start to notice all this bumps and stuff. You're like, what is going on? Your body's fighting against itself. Instead of understanding that, what we do, we cover ourselves up with other things. And instead of fixing the problem, we mask it. We're like, no, we'll just find something else. When really all you need to do is find something like a drink of water. I can't even tell you how many people don't even drink water.
I'm guilty of that. Stop judging me.
I'm sorry. I don't need to.
No, I'm joking.
You know what? Let me go.
Obviously, I was drinking the water.
Okay, good.
And I'm always trying, and I have like 12 bottles of water next to me. Every time I sit down here, I'm drinking water. But that is something I'm over and over trying to remind myself, because it is so important. Yes. Oh my God. My father even had kidney problem because he wasn't drinking enough water. So I take it very seriously. So I don't think that's something you need to apologize for. I need the reminder. We all need to do if you're not drinking at least one bottle of this per day, you're doing a disservice to your body. So please don't apologize for it. But that is a struggle of mine. I'm not even gonna front. It's true. I try to drink water every day. That's like, I put it as a reminder, drink water. So I couldn't agree with you more. But yeah, when you don't drink water, I'm like, even my lips right now, I can feel like it's a little bit white. I'm like, I need to drink water. But especially when you eat a lot of salt, you need it.
Exactly.
That being said, because I follow you, and I was watching one of your live, and you were doing this thing to your leg. Um, walk us through the process. One, what that thing was, and two, what other instrument do you use to really either relax your body or to improve your body, especially you do a lot of intense workouts, you do a lot of things to your body. What do you do to alleviate the pain, I would say?
So the first thing I do is start off with my nutrition. Like early in the morning, I have my water. And that's also something that I start off with my clients. How much water are you drinking? Because if you're not hydrating, no matter what you're trying to achieve, it's going to affect you. So I need to know if you're even drinking water. And then once I have my hydration, you know, I'll have some tea, herbal tea or whatever. I cut off the coffee, other reasons, but I usually have my tea. And then what I do is that I sit in my 𝐓𝐇𝐀𝐍𝐊. So my 𝐓𝐇𝐀𝐍𝐊 is my baby. So that's my moment of woosah. That's when I actually take a book and I read my book, and then I just sit there. And what it's doing is like it's alleviating a lot of pressure that's on my leg, on my muscles, because I work it so hard. It basically helps me to alleviate the tension, all the inflammation that normally would be formed around my quads, whether it's my calves, even my foot. All of that is being impacted by this 𝐓𝐇𝐀𝐍𝐊. So you have this machine that's literally like putting a lot of pressure points onto your legs, so that it can help reduce the inflammation. And then afterwards, every so often, depending on what my training schedule is like throughout the week or month, I usually have my gun too. So I have a hyper volt gun, and then I'll just like kind of massage around my back. And that's areas that I use, but I don't think that a lot of people realize that there's a lot of tension that sits there too. So I do that. I massage my body as well. And I do a lot of stretching, both dynamic stretches for the morning. And then in the afternoon, I'll have my static stretch. And thereafter, I make sure, again, my nutrition is on point. Every time or any time I had in the past, like missed out on some level of my nutrition, no matter what I was doing externally, it always impacted me, because my stomach would feel like it was bloated, or I felt like I built up too much lactate around my muscles. And so I could not even run as fast as I wanted to. So it always affected me. So that's why I got to a point where I had no choice but to be consistent if I wanted to continue on in this journey. And I did. So I was willing to make the sacrifices. And from my nutrition, it's important that you take care of your mental health. Because even though I'm doing all these great things, and I call it great because I feel like it's great. So even though I'm doing all these great things for myself, if I didn't start tackling some of the things that I went through from my past, my future would not be where it's at now. So I had to go back and deal with trauma that was holding me back, because trauma also stays in your body. Trauma is also a stress trigger. So every time, I'm going through all this stress, this journey of stress relieving thing or whatever, this exercise program, and yet I'm not dealing with my trauma.
Yeah.
No matter how much I'm good or how much I excel, my trauma will always hold me back. And that trauma is where you may have that person, that younger side of you that never felt appreciated, never felt loved. And that also impacts the way that you interact with people, the way you interact with yourself, the way you are. And even it may even answer some questions as to why you feel like you need to pig out, or why you feel like you need to have toxic relationships, why you're still stuck in an area that you just can't see yourself out of. Because that child is still scared, or that child feels hurt and you never healed that child. So now, I don't know if you've ever been with a guy, but sometimes when they start complaining or whatever, you can actually see what age they stop growing.
Ooh.
And you can see that they never dealt with that trauma. So what they did was mask it and, you know, continue to grow. They're grown men, but they're 17-year-old boys or they're 13-year-old boys. And they still feel like, man, I'm angry or I'm lashing out, but I don't know why. Because you haven't dealt with that younger side of yourself. You never went back to look back to see what happened in your history that is holding you back and is still stuck in your body. So now every time you start to experience something that's holding you down, you start to react. That child comes out and she or he is lashing out based off of that age because you never dealt with it. So that's why I said mental health is important, because when you deal with that mental health, you start to recognize, oh, so this is why I'm like that. Oh, this is why I can't change these habits. And when you start to tackle that, ooh, it's just like a transformation. It's like, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy. That's why you have to have the right support system in place. Your environment shapes that. So when I'm going through all this journey, not only am I changing my physiology, I'm also changing my mental health, my perception of myself and my perception of people. And that in itself changes my spirituality, because now I'm developed a true relationship with my internal self, my goddess. So whatever I do, I'm able to manifest that, because we're all gods that's able to manifest that which we are destined to do. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
If you don't tap into that, you'll always be controlled by what other people think and say of you, because you don't know yourself.
I love this, Wendy. Powerful. I mean, the terminology I use is tap into your genius. And I think we all have it in us. And sometimes, yes, I know sometimes people call me those names. Sometimes like, oh my God, Mimi, that takes a lot of this and that. I'm like, you have it too. You have to tap into yours. Yes. Yours. And my question to you is, and that's because it just, and I know this one is a difficult question, and I'm probably selfishly asking for myself too, and anyone maybe wants to know that response. How do you continue to tap into your genius when you are with people, maybe like you said, stuck in that maybe age? How do you do that when you are sometime around those people? And some people you cannot just, especially if you're married, you're already part of that relationship. You can't get out of that. I'm not recommending anyone to get a divorce. That is not what I'm saying today. My point is, my question is, when you are surrounded to people who are not even tapping to their own genius, and therefore they almost become like negative inspiration around you, it's almost like dead weight, unfortunately. How do you continue to that journey of exploring yourself, finding your light? Because we all have it. I strongly believe, just like you said, we all have God in us, whether you believe in God or not. I think there's that spirit in us that we all have. Yes. We all have that genius within us, but we cannot find it sometimes because of our surrounding and people around us that are not tapping into theirs. So what would you recommend for those people who are surrounded around, I would say, to keep it simple, around negativity?
So what I have to mention, I think that from my own personal experience, it started off by picking up a book, and I had to be strategic about the book. And it's so interesting because this book was given to me years ago, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to read this. I wasn't focused on reading. I didn't care about reading. I was like, I'm done with college. I don't need to do this. I don't need to go back to school. So why do I have to read? But you would be surprised by reading how much it changes the way you see yourself. And when you go back to reading and you read your history, your heritage, you read some of the things that people went through, especially as Haitians. I talk about the revolution all the time, because think about what those people endured, the suffering that they went through. And a lot of times, even the kids don't know to this day what type of resilience those people had to build in order for them to even have that war, 1804. Because it's important that you understand your history. And when you start reading, you start to understand that there's certain things about us, Black people, Haitians, whatever, Caribbean, whatever you are, there's certain uniqueness about you that you need to tap into. When you start reading, you start to inform yourself as to what it is that you're missing out on. Now that you get the reading done, now you need to surround yourself with the right people who's going to teach you to structure your life in the way that you need to go, in the direction you need to go. For me personally, I had to seek a therapist, not just a regular therapist, a psychotherapist, somebody who was actually dealing with my brain, somebody who can actually understand why is it that if my car breaks down, I feel like I'm gonna collapse and act like the whole world, throw a big ass tantrum, Why am I reacting this way? Why is it that I cannot seem to control my behavior as soon as somebody upsets me? So that's where psychotherapy comes in, because it allows you to tap into your brain. When you're able to tap into your brain and understand, like I said, you understand that child, you understand the trauma, you start to be able to learn what is it, the tools you need in order to deconstruct the things that held you down, deconstruct the behavior, so that as you are deconstructing it, I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy. Everything in life is not easy, guys. But if you realize the importance of self, you start to see that, you know what? I need this. I really want this. So once you start to make that commitment, then the people who are toxic, the people you love, and sometimes it may be some people who are in relationships with marriages that may be really toxic for you. And because you feel it. You feel it. It's like when you settle, I don't know if you've ever experienced this. When you settle, you feel this deep depression that comes over you. It's like this dark cloud comes over you. You try to shake it off, but you're just like, ugh.
We wanted to take a moment to thank all our new subscribers. Please don't hesitate to comment below. Let us know how you enjoying our podcast so far, or if you have any recommendations so we can continue to give you great contents. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for watching.
But he's here. And I'm talking about me because I prefer men, but he's here. He's giving me company. But yet, are you really happy? Not that he's supposed to make you happy, but are you really happy? Are you satisfied knowing that he's treating you this way, but you see that you're better than that, but you're settling? Are you really truly satisfied? Because when you have these deep conversations with yourself, you start to realize you're not. You're just settling.
Yeah.
And when you realize you no longer want to settle, that's when you start to have to, I always talk about substitution. You always have to substitute that which that you cling on to, whether it's food, whether it's a man, whatever it is, you need to substitute it, because going cold turkey is not easy and most people cannot make it. So substitute that person. Now, if you were with that person 24/7, connect yourself with people who are healthy, mentally healthy or physically healthy, whatever it is, surround yourself with people who are like-minded, that's going to help you elevate your mindset so that you can eventually detach yourself from that thing or person that is actually toxic to your growth.
Oh my God, I needed to hear that. And I'm a lot of people will respond the same way, but I couldn't agree with you more. And then I think it can be difficult, but I think it starts with the right mindset. Then I feel like I'm in the right path, because the last person I dated, and after we broke up, I remember I didn't want to date anyone else just because I wanted to understand where I wanted to understand, why did I choose someone like that in the first place? Because it was very toxic, and it was just abusive, very. But I had to go back.
Both, my dear.
It's just, why did I pick that person? And I think going back to understanding myself, and I know sometimes people blame themselves, and I would not recommend anyone to do that, but I do agree with you, understanding the reason you are picking these elements when you're picking a partner. And for me, I know I had to go back and like understand the elements. Why did I pick him specifically? And even though he left a part of me, you don't understand. I remember when he left my body. So as you were talking, I was like, that is so true. I remember when he left, that part of me was like such a joy. Like, oh my God, I wanted to this. But at the same time, like, oh my God, I don't have someone to call a boyfriend anymore.
Yes.
That's a bummer. But I remember being so
I could attest to that. I could attest to that.
But I remember it was like this complexity going through my brain of, oh my God, I miss him because he's not there anymore. But I just remember feeling such a joy. It was just like this thing lifted. Yeah. And I remember he called back. For whatever reason, he called back. But I just remember that fear. Oh my God, what if he asks to come back? What if he asks to go back and come back again? And I remember like having like that anxiety. What if I don't have the guts to say no? And we go back to that same routine of feeling miserable. So I couldn't agree with you more. It's just, it's a tough one. So I'm glad you walk us through that process, and hopefully someone received that. I certainly did. And yeah, but I don't know if I paid attention to how I felt so much. It was just like something, your guts, my body told me so many times to let that thing go. I did not listen.
Yes, your body knows, girl.
I did not listen. So with that being said, obviously you are one of my inspirations, Wendy. I have to say, what do and who do you look up to really stay inspired? Like for me, I feel like if I listen to this video, hopefully anyone listening, if I listened to this when I was dating this awful man, maybe I would have just send that text or even let him know sooner. And my question to you is, who do you look up to when it's time for you to get inspired?
So it all depends, because my inspirations come from different places. When it comes down to my spirituality, I think that understanding my roots is the number one thing that's important. Understanding, where my family was, and I don't have an idol. I don't believe in idols, honestly. I don't care for them, honestly. I think that I had to realize that my inspiration was first understanding my history, my family's history, understanding my family's foundation. We're Haiti, they came from Haiti, but what happened? How did they even get to Haiti? That layer, like going deep into the understanding of Africanism, understanding how all these Black people ended up in these different countries. How, why, and who were they before all of them were Haitians or divided into other ethnicities. And when I started understanding the African civilization and how much they always were able to build up the industry, that they were their first builders, they were scientists, they were archaeologists, they were all these different things. I was just like, whoa, how? And today, you don't see that. You don't see that in our history books, in the schools. You don't see that, but yet you see more Black kids who are deprived from learning, who are deprived from resources, who don't have any idea who they are or where they really came from. That's what drives me. The idea of knowing that I need to trace back my roots and understand where my lineage started, and understand how I might be able to impact the people that I surround myself. So when I go to schools or when I'm talking to people, especially young girls, I go back to what happened to me, what I didn't know, what I was thriving off of, and what I desired. And you'd be surprised how you tend to attract people who were just like you, and who just needs to hear a message. And I think that's my desires. That's the things that I would say that motivates me to keep going. Because you'd be surprised how often I see somebody or a kid or whatever, or an adult, and I don't know that they're watching me. Like, I did not know you ever watched me, honestly. What? I honestly did not.
But and amazing. So I'm inspired, honestly. But yeah, please, sorry for cutting you off. Go ahead.
And yeah, because I didn't know this, is like I would look through other people's eyes to see, am I the influencer? Am I able to impact other people's lives?
Yes, she is.
and through that, I'm able to want to continue on in this journey, because I'm not allowing people to dictate my life, but I am careful about how I present myself. I'm very cautious about what I put in my mind. And every time I'm able to share information with people, I see how they are able to transform their lives. So I know I'm doing something right? So because of that, it just motivates me to, you know what? I think I want to continue on in this journey. You know, I think I have a reason why I want to keep getting up. So, and it's so encouraging, because I don't know, it's just you know how you felt when you lost that guy and you were just like, yeah, I feel joyful. But even though you felt sad, for some reason, you were able to connect with yourself, and yourself was able to almost like applaud you for making the first step of transformation. And by making that first step, you then were able to connect with people who are probably a lot more healthier, and who was able to take you and pull you out of that rut that you were in before. And I only speak that from my own experiences, and I hope that happened to you, because yes, the loss is detrimental. You know, you might suffer a little bit, but the reward, is amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
On the flip side, I dare to say, what are the key ingredients of finding that perfect, not even the perfect partner, but like these key ingredients that can really surround yourself to being successful?
I think that first, developing a relationship with yourself, understanding what it is you're lacking, and then work around that. Work with yourself, surround yourself, and surround yourself with the right people and the right environment. And then from there, trust the process. Trust the process. I say this, and I speak this from my own personal experience. Believe that everything that you're going through is for a reason. And call it cliche, whatever. I believe that if you believe that you losing that person, or you missing out on that fried food, was necessary. Understand that your body's going to thank you. Understand that you may be dodging cancer, or you may be dodging a man who might beat the mess out of you. You know, you may be dodging something. So be thankful that you're able to tune into that side of you and be able to elevate yourself by surrounding yourself within an environment and the right people. And then I always tell people, I like plants. And I see you have a plant. I love that you have a plant, because plants, what they do, they clean up your air. So, you know, we're around people all the time. We're around different things. We're around the environment, it's polluted or whatever. But when you go inside your house, what does it look like? Do you have plants? Is your air being cleaned out so that your mind could be renewed, so that your body can be able to suck in the clear, clean oxygen that you need in order to perform? Do you have that? Because our environment is not just based off of the externality, it's based off of our internal. So we talked about what we put in our bodies, but what does your surrounding look like? So when you start to repair your surroundings, put your plants around the house, start to actually develop a relationship with yourself. Read. You don't have to be in school to do this, guys. Read, pick up a book, you know, elevate your knowledge, your understanding in life, because everything that was told to you may not have been true. And it's okay for you to debunk that which wasn't true. And it's okay for you to forgive yourself, because during those times you showed up the best way you knew how. But it doesn't mean you have to stay there. So now you have to first forgive yourself and learn to figure out what is it that your body, what is it that you need in order to redevelop a better relationship with yourself and your people, the people that you want to surround yourself. That will eventually come. You will eventually start to see that you're going to attract the right people, because now your mind is clearer. You're attracting the right frequency. Whatever you think, that is what you will manifest.
I could not agree with you more. I guess my question is, what is one thing? What is one thing you wish you knew sooner? You talked about a lot of powerful stuff. Obviously, 2 years ago, that's where it really pivoted, and you are training people with the same clarity mindset, and you doing it the most authentic way. And I think that's the way everybody should do it, where they're leading by following. But going back to what you know now, what is one thing out of everything you wish you knew you were doing, or even you wish you knew sooner?
I wish that I knew how to love myself earlier in my years as a teenager, because I remember always being depressed. And I mean, we were transitioning a lot, you know, believe it or not, we were from Boston as well. We were born in Lynn, Massachusetts. And, you know, that whole childhood for me it was a lot of trauma. So it was like up and down all the time. So I never understood or even knew myself, because I was always like on the flight or fight mode, you know, always having to protect my family or protect my siblings, or, you know, I'm the oldest from my sister, so I always have to make sure I look out for my sister while my mom went to work, you know, things like that. And it was very traumatic. You know, we went through some stuff. And when we finally settled somewhere, and we didn't settle until I was like adult, okay? So you're talking about years of trauma. And I think that had I known since I was a young kid that, you know, hey, Wendy, you can love yourself. You can still be a kid. You can still enjoy your skin color, like even that, you know, understanding that my Black skin is beautiful, that my nose is beautiful, like, you know, all of these things. Had I known that I should love myself early on, I would have probably made different choices, not mistakes, choices, because I was making choices according to what I believe was best
at the time. Yeah,
exactly. So that's why I think that had I known early on how to love that I needed to love myself, how to love myself, then I think that I would have made different choices.
I love that response. I will not cry. My next question too is, what is the most important risk that you took? And it can be running, it could be starting that journey about 2 years ago, but from your point of view, what is the most important risk that is shaping your life today?
I think that, so it's not, I can't really, so there's a lot of stories I could share, but I think that overall that I learned, yeah, I said sorry to myself too. So I had learned, and I didn't know this, I was actually chastised for this a lot, that I was always a risk taker. And a lot of times I didn't know the end results, but I would always take risks. I don't know why, but it was just something about taking the risk that I just had to know. What's the end result? What's going to happen if I do this? Like your parents will tell you, don't put your hand in the fire. You're like, but why?
I know exactly what you mean.
I was that kid that would do it anyway. Yo, I could. My sister would probably share this, but I'm gonna share this story, but I don't care, judge me. It was one time, we used to live in Maryland, and I was so depressed, but it was a funny story because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna venture out and do something crazy. So I decided I wanted to go underneath my sister's bed, light up a lighter. I want to see if I can see under my sister's bed with the lighter. Do you know I lit up my sister's bed and the whole bed?
You want to eat your sister? You wanted to eat her up?
I wanted to see if I could find light.
Oh my God.
I wanted to see if my sister's bed, if I can find light underneath if I can light my sister's bed. And
it's good.
I brought this story up because that was a huge risk. And let me tell you, my mom was like, Wendy, oh my God, of all the crazy things you would have done, why? I just had to know what would happen. I mean, logically, you would be like, well, the bed would catch on fire. As a kid, I'm like, I had to see it myself. I had to know it. And my sister and I always bring up that story, and I wasn't trying to, she wasn't on the bed, guys. it was just me in the room.
I'm picturing her. I'm picturing her on the bed and you lighting it up and you wanted to cook her
No,
up.
she wasn't on the bed, no. But I did it. I was a risk taker. And every time I took risks, whether it was good results or bad results, it always gave me the answer I needed. And I'm saying that because I needed to know through my journey, as good and as bad, whatever it was, I needed to know what Wendy was capable of. And I think that in itself has brought me to the level that I'm at now by taking all the different risks that I took. And literally last year, I remember if this time, had you reached out to me, it would have been a different Wendy, completely different Wendy. This year, and I'm going to even bring up my locks. I started doing my locks, and let me tell you a little bit briefly about locks. It's not just a hairstyle. It's a spiritual journey. the pharaohs, they used to actually wear locks. I don't know if you know about the Egyptian, the African
The
Egyptians.
process, actually.
So a lot of times when they had locks, every time it would grow, it signified power. It signified growth. It signified, and I don't know if you know the Bible when they talked about Solomon, when they shaved off his hair. Delilah, I think her name was, shaved off his hair. He lost his power. He lost his strength. So with locks, when I started to understand the meaning behind that, beyond than just a hairstyle, I started to reevaluate my situation. Because when I had started locks, I was in a different situation, my environment was different. The people I was connected with was completely different, and it wasn't good for me.
Yeah.
And as a result, I remember when I first started, I stayed 3 months with the locks, and I was like, you know what? Something inside of me just doesn't like this locks. And I just pulled them all out. My sister actually helped me. She pulled it all out. And I was just like, dang, now I got to start over. But I didn't start until August. And after I went, during that time from last year, March, which was the time I took out my locks, up until August, I went through the worst experience of losing people that I loved and I held on to so dearly. And I made a decision. I took a risk and I built up boundaries. I decided that I wanted to stand up for myself. I decided that some people weren't good for me. And because of that, I lost out on, and I love these people. I love these people, but it just wasn't working for me. And I was willing to make that sacrifice. I was willing to make that risk. Granted, it hurt like hell. I was really, really it hurt. But after a while, and of course, I'm in therapy again. I'm a strong believer in therapy. Okay. That support system was in place. I had the right tools. So I was able to help myself and help myself to be able to find other things and other substitutions that was able to anchor me out of that depression. So as a result, I was able to now transform into the person I am today. So in August, that's when I started the locks again. And by then I was already disconnected with all the people that I loved and cared that was toxic or whatever it was. And I realized, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start my locks. And this time it was a spiritual thing. And it was really, and I'm not talking about religion. There's a difference, religion and spirituality, big difference. When I say spiritual, I'm talking about a deeper connection with myself, building this. It's almost like building this foundation of who this being, this spiritual that lives in this body is, and connecting with it so that I might be able to believe and manifest that which I desire and that which I want to be. So as a result, I started noticing a difference in the way I saw my hair. Like hell, my hair was like wild and crazy, but I found an appreciation of it. I said, wow, you know what? I see you looking cute. Okay. I really cute style, you know? And I loved it. And then I started loving myself. I started taking better care of myself. Girl, I was taking naps.
You talk about naps. Oh my God.
Girl, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about it. It's just making me happy. And, you know, I started really caring for Wendy. I started doing things that I was looking for other people to do for me. So now I was able to fulfill that within myself. And I started doing that because I started dealing with that inner child. And I started recognizing that you needed myself. I needed to love that child so she can learn to appreciate life. Yeah. That's why I'm where I'm at now.
Oh my goodness. So let's talk about your locks for a second. So you had them for about a year.
No, not yet. It's what? August, September, October, November, December, January, February. Today is March. 8 months.
8 months. What would you say to anyone thinking about doing it? Anyone listening? It's like, okay, but sounds like you wanted to do it because you did it before and then you took it out. And then if it's almost as if you found inner peace and your inner self was saying, Wendy, I want locks again. And I think sometimes our body tells us what we need. It tells us what we want. Sometimes we're not listening. And sometimes we let fear take over. Yes. Sometimes when we're not in the right mind space, we're like, I know I want to drink water, but soda something time better. And so how did, obviously you walk us through the process of how you find that inner peace. What would you say to anyone thinking about locks, and give us some pointers of what you do when it comes to managing your locks 8 months in? What would you say to anyone thinking about doing this?
Well, first off, I think that you have to learn to love yourself. And of course, you got to learn to appreciate your own beauty.
Yeah.
Do not compare yourself with anybody, no matter what. I mean, I'm talking about skin color, and I feel like media, social media, those things shape our perception. And if we're not careful, a lot of times we think that we need to look a certain way to achieve something, when really you need to develop a relationship with yourself and understand what self really needs, what self can really maintain. I went through a journey, and I remember in my early 20s, I was dating someone. They was like, why don't you just lock your hair? Girl, and I don't know if anybody knows about the Haitian community, but where I came from, they did not believe in that. They felt like you were a vagabond, and that's if you're crazy, you know? Like, my mom was gun-ho, like, you should not be doing something crazy like that. And I believed that. I felt like, locks, that's so gross.
You know, even braiding my hair sometimes, my mom is like, no, don't braid your hair.
Exactly.
Be like silk and long. I'm like,
yes,
no, we're gonna braid this baby out because first of all,
exactly. And it's funny because this is a stigma that was in us since the time of slavery. Yeah. And here's an interesting fact about our about Black women is that they were chastised by white women because white males were attracted to Black women, and they were attracted to their hair. Our hair is different. Our hair is more coiled. So when white women saw that their man, the slave masters, were attracted to their slave women, they wanted the women to cover up their hair. And so then and you know, Black people, for some reason, they're very creative. And so what they started doing all these cute little wraps and different colorful wraps. And so that even attracted them. So now what white women was trying to do was signify to Black women that, and it's even in our media, in order to be projected as a beautiful woman, your hair needs to be long, straight, needs to be this, needs to be that, but never appreciating the Black beauty.
Yeah.
We don't appreciate our own looks. In fact, I remember growing up, in fact, even now to this day, when you talk to women who have like a different texture of hair, like if you have like a 4C, you know, I guess now they categorize it 4Cs or up, whatever it is, it's like women just hate, they cringe at the idea that, my God, my hair is so nappy, I can't do anything with it, and they don't know how. And so as a result, it's like you start to put all these different things in your hair, and it draws so much tension. And then you start to develop, for some people, they have alopecia. They have all these different things that affects their hair because they never learned how to care for their hair, and they've never been taught. And the media and social media does not help at all. So as a result, you're being programmed to believe that your hair is disgusting, that your hair is out of whack, is unmanageable. So as a result, you start to find other ways in order to fit in what society deems as beauty. So as a result, when I actually started getting older and older, first the perming for me, I learned that with perms, it affects me. And so here's another interesting thing about menstruation. It actually creates cysts and fibroids. So your crown connects to your spinal cord. So your spinal cord is going all the way down. And so you're being connected. So all these things are connected. Your ovaries are connected to that. So whatever you put here is affecting here, you know? So that means that all the chemicals that you put in your hair, it creates all these diseases later on in life. All these fibroids, all these cysts, and a lot of women I'm hearing now, and I've seen researches that's being done that there are more women, predominantly Black women, who are doing a lot of hysterectomies. Why? Fibroids, all these different cancerous viruses. Nobody ever taught them how to treat themselves. So when you're putting all these, again, foreign objects into your body, later on, your body fought itself so much that it started developing diseases. So now you have all these diseases which now you can't do anything but have a surgery or you know, whatever, cover up that beauty, whatever it is, you know? I feel like when I started learning about myself, I did not like to perm my hair anymore, and I could not maintain it anymore. And I just did not want to see me in old age with my hair falling out. And my hair was falling out with perms because it was chemical. I was putting chemicals in my hair. So then I decided I wanted to go all natural. But even that, because by then I was deciding to work out, I don't like to comb my hair. I don't like to comb my hair. And honestly, I had to learn that some combs did not work for my hair because my hair was thicker. So as a result, I had to learn different things, different ways of caring. And I didn't learn this for myself. Again, I connected with people who knew this. Like there's this lady in Miami, Ludney, she's an amazing hairstylist, and even another one in Coral Springs, Rhonda. Like these people really changed and transformed the way I thought of hair care. And the only reason why I was able to learn is because I was willing to pay so I can get educated about my hair.
Yeah.
And it's just like a personal trainer. Sometimes you don't know. And it's like we talked about, we don't know it all. So sometimes you may have to sacrifice and maybe have to pay somebody so that they can teach you how to care for yourself. But keep in mind, you need to pay somebody who is like-minded and people who are relatable to you. Meaning, if you know that this white woman does not have kinky hair, don't go to that lady. If you know this Spanish lady only presses her hair, don't go to that lady if you don't have her hair texture. That's what I mean. Go to someone who fits who you are. Meaning, if you're a Black woman who has kinky hair, who's struggling, talk to somebody who's a licensed cosmetologist who knows how to care for their hair so that they can teach you how to care for your hair. So that's the difference. And I'm not trying to make it about race, but I have to be realistic. And that's why I say I'm a realistic person when it comes down to breaking down information. Right. So from there, when I realized I don't like combing my hair, I was like, maybe I should think about locks. And I was like, no, I don't want to do locks. I don't want to do locks. So it took years for me to even, but it just always kept coming back in my mind. Maybe I should do locks. I was like, no, I don't want to do locks. So it wasn't until my 30s, I finally decided to research.
Right.
Why is it that I don't like locks? What is it about locks? And then I started understanding the meaning behind that and how it was tied to power, how it was tied to strength, how it was tied to your inner growth. In fact, even your nervous system, it's almost like an extension to your nervous system. Yeah. So now you're able to connect with things a lot differently and hear things differently. So then I realized, oh, so this is not just a hairstyle. And that's when I started. But when I started, my life was not in place. It was still chaotic. And I'm so glad that I took it out, because locks also stores energy. So if you're not surrounded by the right energy, a lot of times your hair will feel like it's weighted, like it's heavy. You don't know why. And I'm sure other hairstyles might feel the same, like other people might feel the same way with other hairstyles, but I know for sure, based off the research I've done, locks do hold energy. And so because of that, I realized maybe it was good that I took it out, and I started in a time when I knew that I got rid of the toxicity that was holding me back. So that's why I stayed committed to it. And I started seeing a different look. Not to say that my hair was longer or anything like that. My hair was really short. And I realized that because of what's being out there, what's been projected out there in the streets and the social media, that if you're a woman, you're supposed to have long hair and this and that a short hairstyle means that you're not beautiful. I started reshaping my mindset. And it was easier for me to do that because, again, I was surrounded by the right folks. I was paying for therapy. I was reading the right sources that was helping me build up my mindset, my self-efficacy. So as a result, I was able to hone in the beauty, the true beauty of myself. Yeah. So that's why I started seeing beauty in the way my hair was progressing. And it's something interesting about watching your hair develop into different stages, you know? Yeah. And it's just like watching yourself go from a bad relationship to now having a positive relationship. You see that, man, when I was over there, I was different, you know. It was a different life, you know. It was different. I'm not gonna say much, you know. It was hard because you sacrificed a lot for not enough. Yeah. So now I'm getting even more for the sacrifices I'm making, because now I'm making sacrifices for the better good of myself. So yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving this journey. I'm appreciating every aspect of my journey, whether it's overcoming trauma, overcoming the stigma of of beauty, the stigma of what an ideal personal trainer is supposed to be like. I feel like I'm literally in heaven, because now I truly have a real relationship with myself, and I love and respect myself, and I share that with others, that they are able to capture that information and use that for their own goods. Yeah. So yeah.
Wendy, oh my God, from fitness to nutrition, from hair, you drop a lot of gems today. I am so honored and blessed and excited about this, and how so many people really gonna get those gems as well. I could not have agreed with you more. I think a lot of us need to get in tune with ourselves more, and maybe fitness may not be that thing for you, but I think we can capture so many things from what you said today, either from relationship. Oh my God, I need to go back and understand more my relationship for sure. But honestly, I am so glad I continue to follow you. And if anyone not following this girl, you are missing out. I mean, you share your journey so authentically. And sometimes I have to really look inward and say, okay, how can I improve this? How can I? And I love the fact that you mentioned not having a role model. I can relate totally. And it's not just a Haitian thing. And maybe we just need more Haitian role models. And I know there are a lot of them out there, but it's just the idea of finding oneself, either for nutrition, fitness, so powerful. I could not have agreed with you more. Thank you. I do have one more question. I do have one more question. I promise this is the last one. What would you say to anyone listening? Because you already said so many powerful things, so I'm hesitant. Because I know a lot of people, maybe they are trying to find their journey and they don't even know where to start. My recommendation is go follow Wendy. You found a good way to start. That's where to really build your community. And you mentioned social media, which is many times, I know people say social media can be bad, but it can be good too, because if you have access to Wendy, like her, so that's a powerful mindset, the powerful side of social media, where you have access to someone like her. Sorry, you guys, I don't know if you can't all live with her, but social media is a good way to start, where we can really have access to all the great things she shares. When it comes to mental fitness, physical fitness, and even the emotional part, when we talk about looking at your own history. So my question is, what would you say to anyone listening before we leave today? And obviously, I would love to chat with you again. But for today, what would you leave with?
I would say, take a look at yourself. Just go in the mirror, see past your flesh. Look at your internal self. What is it saying to you? Listen to that voice. Write it down. Then go back and read it. When you read it, see exactly what it is asking. Because your true self knows. She or he knows what it is that you're missing, that you need. Then break those things down. Figure out, well, I don't have this information, so how do I obtain it? What do I need to do? Then go online or call someone who you know you can trust and who's going to provide you with the right information to get you to that next level. Then if you have to pay for it, be willing to pay for it. Don't think twice about it, because the outcome of that is going to be by far better than your current state. Once you reach to that point and understanding that and break down those barriers, then look around your environment. Look around the people you're surrounded by. Are they really helping you? Are they really elevating you, elevating your mindset? And then even in your own home, what do you have? Do you have plants? Do you have pets? Do you have the right atmosphere set up? Are you reading? Are you going back to your history? Are you connecting with family? Do you have a lot of toxic relationships? All of these things, you need to question. You need to figure out, understanding those things. And then if you need a support system, find a support system that fits you best. It was my psychotherapist, my sister and I. From my psychotherapist, I was able to help my sister also seek the right therapist for herself. I was able to, it's like the changes occurred in me, and I was then able to distribute that information that helped change my family's life. So now that I'm a pillar, it's like, you got to be willing to share the jewels with others so that they can actually get out of the rut, But you have to give yourself time. This is a process. This is a journey. So you have to know that even though you don't see the results tomorrow, because you just started the changes today, it doesn't mean that it's not possible. It just means it's going to take time. And you have to be willing to accept that time will allow a huge transformation to take place. You just have to give yourself that time. You got to give yourself that permission. And once you do that, then you start to notice your mindset changes. Then you start to notice the way you see things, the way you talk to people, all of these things. The people you attract are going to also be different. And once you accept that, you see life differently. And I think that, and I listed a lot, but I think once you start with yourself, having that relationship, understanding what is it that self needs is the first thing you need to do.
I love it. You change your mind and you change your world. I could not.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you. Whew. Very powerful. Wendy, thank you so much. I am excited to talk to you again, honestly. And for all of you listening, oh my God, drop into DM. Let her know how amazing this interview was. And obviously go follow her. You're missing out if you're not following her. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Wendy, thank you so much for the amazing conversation. And hopefully I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you. And I appreciate what you're doing. I think you're doing such an amazing thing. And I cannot wait. I mean, you're blowing up already, but girl, you are going to blow up like in a positive way, because we need more people like you. And I'm so grateful that, no offense, but I'm grateful you're Haitian, because we Haitian women, like, you don't hear that a lot. You really don't. We need more of this.
We really do. And what my next goal is to eventually, and I'm saying this because, have you ever watched Disney Channel?
I used to, yeah.
But when you go watch Disney, you see every culture but Haitian culture.
You're right.
So that's my next goal. And I'm sharing this because I want to put it out there, because that's where our history starts. And when we go back, we see Cubans, we see Puerto Rico, and it starts with the kids. When you can see yourself in animation and you see, you can do it, but you don't even see your culture. And as a kid, and one of the reasons you said you can't even find a role model, but we don't have that many. When we're watching those animation, even kids, and we don't even see it as a kid, it's really hard for us to really get to the next stage, to get that inspiration. And it breaks my heart, but that's my goal, honestly, for us to see it. Where we can see interviews like you, honestly, where we are not only talking about the physical part, we're not just talking about hair, but we're talking about the holistic part of becoming a better version of ourselves, or just living, not just talking about a Louis Vuitton purse or Gucci. Let me tell you something. Gucci went to that internal process already. They had to go to their own internal process to get that, to share their genius with the world. Absolutely. But if you're not tapping into yours and understanding, breaking down, just like you did today, on how to get to your level of genius, how do we really elevate the next generation? And I think these conversations are so powerful, so powerful. And I'm excited because there's so many times I'm like, I want to cry, but I'm not gonna cry. But it just brings tears to my eyes, because we need to have more of this conversation. And I'm hoping when you're done, anybody done watching this, you're gonna go home and continue that conversation with the next person in your life, and you elevate, and you basically, just like Wendy, you're doing, you trickle it down to the next generation, and you basically build in your own community. And I couldn't agree with you more. We need to have more of this conversation, and especially in the Haitian community, I have to agree with you. We're not having enough of them, not having enough. So thank you so much. This is amazing. And I love having this conversation. So thank you. But yeah.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for listening. I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.